Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Internet of Senses podcast. This is our first podcast focused on sound and hearing. My name is Tyler Heaton. I am a sound designer and a spatial technologies researcher with the Spatial Technologies Applied Research and Training Center at Lethbridge College in Alberta, Canada, where I specialize on the implementation of spatial media and technology in immersive experience design. Today, we will be speaking with Jen Cleary about the transformational power of sound and music and its effect on wellness. Jen Cleary is a creative producer, innovator, entrepreneur, and pioneer in the world of music and sound. Through her first company, Beluscious, Jen has set the standard for nightlife performance while providing a safe environment for artists and a venue that elevates the status of women. Now, with Sound Connective, Jen is pushing the boundaries of health and wellness entertainment with an innovative approach to whole body sound immersion. Jen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Very nice meeting you.
We're excited to have you here for our first sound and hearing podcast because of the exciting work that you're doing and because of the history that you have with sound and music and performance all put together. You've had such an amazing career in this space. Can you talk a little bit about your history with music and performance?
Absolutely. It's funny how, at this point in my life, if I look back, I see that everything brought me here. So I started up as a professional dancer at a very young age. One of my dance teacher, when I was about 5 years old, recognized that I had a lot of rhythm and asked my parents if, she could start training me in tap dancing. And I truly believe that that's where it all started. I then danced professionally from the age from about 8 years old on. So dance was always part of my life. When you think about it, dance is a way to express sound and also the way that you can embody music. It's really something that now I recognize is also a form of therapy. So I guess I was lucky enough, and now I'm very grateful that I grew up in that space. And tap for me was a percussion, a way of, I'm not a musician for what the words perhaps says it, which I should be, but still. But my way of expressing myself through music and sound was through my feet with rhythms. So moving forward, a little bit later in life, when I was about 13 years old, I started choreographing as well. And, I never thought that I would be in the entertainment business on a full-time base, but that all changed when I was about 17 and I started getting full-time offers to dance professionally in different spaces between Canada and United States. And very quickly I recognized that, I liked performing, but there was something more to it. I was actually preferring to put people on stage, start having those ideas and choreographing more as well, doing creative direction. So that's when I started, thinking about what could be perhaps this first company that I ended up launching out of Montreal back in the days in 2003, that was Beluscious. As you mentioned, the mission of Beluscious was very specific, still is. It was about helping women in the entertainment business to have more opportunities to shine. As a professional dancer, I was recognizing as a woman also, it was perhaps difficult to get recognized for your talent and to have the opportunity to showcase what you were all about. So for more years than I can remember now, like over 20 years, this company grew internationally. I got a chance to bring it to Las Vegas, where we were part of the movement of dance music. And through that channel, I got to explore even more on how to get inspired by sounds that were perhaps at that time different to me. My ear was mostly trained with jazz music, and I was a Broadway girl and like all of that fun stuff. But the complexity of dance music that sometimes we don't recognize pushed me to understanding how sensorial music can be, and how perhaps the opportunity of getting inspired by beats and by different rhythms can allow us to visually express that also, and can allow people that connect with that music to then also see the music. I wasn't there yet mentally. I would have never talked like that back in the days, but that's what today feels right to whenever that question is asked to me about why is it now that sound takes such a big importance in my life and what has brought me to that, I guess, is really this beautiful, I guess, evolution in the entertainment business, in the sound world, from tap dancing to expressing sound through movement as well. And now recognizing that sound is so much more than what we hear, so much more than, something that perhaps can, yes, help us to be entertained and forget our problems and let go for a minute. But that sound is actually also very powerful and can allow us to heal and unite, obviously, and transform. So a few years ago, as I was still, pushing my first company, Beluscious, doing all those beautiful productions with different artists, I went through a hard journey on a personal level, and I got introduced to sound meditations, but mostly curated by the sounds of tribes or with tribes. And that totally opened another, like, I would say, total different avenue for me as for wanting to dive into that world even more to understand how is it that our ancestors, sorry, um and the tribes all around the world have been using sounds without communicating with one another. Some of those sounds and frequencies are very similar, as well. So my interest in understanding the power of sound from, their point of view, from my point of view also, which had been, pretty much recognized more in the entertainment and commercial world, that became kind of a mission of how can we ally both worlds together and try to make and create accessible experiences, or in the case of, being part of the entertainment ecosystem, how can we start learning from the wisdom of our ancestors and implant some of those frequencies that we know can help us at many different levels. Moving forward with that mission that I set up for myself, there was so much more to it as well, because people were asking me questions such as, well, that's a quote unquote holistic, way of treating it, and which wasn't wrong. And I was like, you know what, let's go even deeper. So I started studying in music therapy, and I started understanding, or trying at least to understand to the best of my capacity, what is the science of sound? Like, what is it that is perhaps recognized and that has been used even in medical field, to help people release stress, anxiety, to help people with dementia, to help people heal faster. So suddenly this entire world became even more complex, but in a very fascinating way. And the fourth component, I guess, or element that is very important to me, whenever I push something forward, or that I brainstorm with my team about our products, has been amazing encounters that I had with musicians that are either deaf or hard of hearing, and they were challenging me on how to listen. So there's this unbelievable percussionist, virtuoso percussionist, Dame Evelyn Glennie, that I had the opportunity to meet. She's been, touring the world, one of the prime percussionists in the world. She worked with Bjork. She did the Olympics for London, actually, the opening ceremony. She was like the star, and also curating the orchestration with all the percussionists there. And she's, she lost her hearing when she was about 8 years old. And she came up to me one day with this beautiful, simple question: you can hear, but are you listening? And I have to say that changed my life. So there I was doing, for my personal purposes, those meditation with sound, because I'm not someone who can stand still in silence. I need something to, like, distract my mind, but to stay, I would say, like, it's like entertainment is always part of me. So music to me helps me to relax more than staying in silence. So putting all of that knowledge that I was starting to tap on, and the understanding I was getting from how tribes have been using sound to help, and to help us at many levels, how the D-deaf and hard of hearing community have been opening themselves and listening through their entire bodies to receiving sound. And then the medical field, the science of sound, that have also been using music to help patients feel better and go through traumatic events and let go of all of that, and even healing physically. That's where my interest really, like went off the roof. I thought, there has to be a way that we can learn from all of those different techniques, from those different people, from, again, going back in time, as for how important also it was and it still is for tribes to connect with the sounds of the earth, of nature, of feeling each other's frequencies. Meanwhile, we're all becoming more and more robotic. We're all wanting to be perhaps a little bit more present now in our lives with our loved ones and with ourselves. So, how can we do that? And every time I would ask myself all those questions, there seems to always be an answer that would arise for connect with sound, connect with music, learn how to listen, open yourself up. So it's a very long answer to your question, but I guess in a nutshell, like, my and I'm very grateful, like, I guess that teacher when I was 5 probably recognized that I had this sensibility for music and sound. But through my career, having worked with high level artists that are in the musical field, and having had this chance of creating spectacles that are inspired by that music also, and that are all about bringing people together so they can feel together and unite, um, has really allowed me to take a step back right now and try to add those extra ingredients in the magic potion so that we can shake it all up and, start this movement basically that is about raising awareness for the power of sound.
That's amazing. A long answer, yes, but I think a great introduction to a field and an area that I think so many people think they're familiar with, because
Mm,
it's something that I believe we take for granted, our hearing, our sound, our environment. But the science of sound being so fascinating, so rich, so deep, even the terminology, I like that, you talk about frequency, and that's more of like a scientific term. And yet, as you start to understand sound, you start to understand music, you see it, you feel it, you hear it. There are frequencies we don't hear, but we feel.
yes,
And so
yes,
that rhythmic sensibility that comes in through feeling the percussive nature of music or sound. I think it's so important to start there. It's a great place to start, to bring out so many of these terms and these topics.